Hi everyone, we're live. Oh, Mark, were you going to start the show?
No, I just didn't realise we were live.
Oh,
I was just sitting there twiddling my pen and I'll have a little drink.
Fantastic. So here we are live. We're streaming on the Green Umbrella Marketing Facebook page. We're live on YouTube and also on my LinkedIn profile. So wherever you're joining us from, hello and thank you for tuning in. My phone is now buzzing like crazy. I don't know if you, hopefully you're not picking that up on the sound. No. Do you know, I feel a little bit out of sorts. So I'm officially having a few days off this week. So I couldn't miss live lunch, of course, because I like our little chat about, what's happening each week. And it's our opportunity to sort of catch up with each other as well, isn't it? So I feel a little bit unprepared because I've been doing like boring things like hanging out in IKEA and not so boring things like spending time with my 14-year-old, which I'm so glad I thought before I said that then. Otherwise, that I'd have been in a lot of trouble, wouldn't I? But what have you guys been up to in my absence? What's been going on? What news have you seen in the social media world that we should be talking about?
I just thought you meant in general in your absence. I was going to say wild parties.
Yeah. It's been a really chilled out week.
Yeah. We've just been spinning on our chairs, basically, waiting for you to get back.
See, I'm good with that. Amanda and I have had calls before where literally I've just spun on my chair whilst we're having very serious, important conversations. So yeah, that's all good. That's all good. So come on, Amanda, what have you been looking at social-wise? What have you been diving on?
Quite a lot, actually. It's been a busy old week or so. So new developments in the world of marketing and social media. Might not feel brand new, but because it's about a week old now, but obviously we had Jackie from Team on last week, so we didn't really get to talk about it. But LinkedIn Stories has now landed with, I think it's gone out to everybody. Sometimes when LinkedIn roll out features, it only goes to a select few people. It kind of selects people at random, and then if it doesn't work, it has a chance to roll it back before rolling it further. But it seemed like it went to everybody. So it's only on their app. So if you've got the LinkedIn app on your phone, it's not desktop available. So, and again, like all stories, it's the one at the top of your newsfeed, which is in a little circle. So it's kind of mimics Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, people were pretty quick to jump on it I've got this, it's shiny and new. But the amount of people that went, oh, I've got this, now I don't know what to say. So kind of that's how it started. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting development, whether it's a pro or a con. There's people that are kind of going, oh God, stories. Are we going to have people kind of going, this is what I'm having for lunch, and the sort of banal stuff or personal stuff you see? Or is it going to be a fantastic opportunity for people to share kind of in the moment content that is behind the scenes of what they're doing, important kind of just in news. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out and who sticks with it.
I haven't actually tested it yet, but I know, Jane, you tested it, didn't you, as soon as you got it?
I did, yeah.
I haven't. I think I'm one of those people where I wouldn't really know what to put, because I feel like on my other stories, they are quite personal, and I'll put stuff that I wouldn't necessarily put on LinkedIn because I don't want to show that stuff on LinkedIn. I don't really want to show what I'm having for breakfast because I don't think anybody cares.
So what was interesting that a lot of people immediately started cross-posting. So you would see a story on LinkedIn that was clearly built in in Instagram, for example, because of the labels and the stickers and the text formats, that kind of thing. So it's quite interesting that people would just immediately just go like copy paste with the content essentially. I do think it's quite a big opportunity. This style of content is not going anywhere fast. And I do think there's a nice opportunity there to really tap into that stuff that maybe you don't want out there in the public domain forevermore. The fact that it's going to disappear after 24 hours, so I'm doing a webinar this afternoon on video and video pitching.
I was about to say, have you forgotten?
I do know what I'm talking about later today. Thank you very much. Once. But yeah,
There's still time to
doing...
register. There's still, so any AppSco members that happen to be listening in, wanting to talk about or learn more from you about kind of how to appear on video as we are now and how to use that to your advantage. So yeah, little plug for you.
Yeah. So, but, you know, whilst I'm preparing for that, I might take a selfie of me in the screen, or, you know, Mark and I were just in a meeting with a prospective new client. We might have taken a photo then, and I'd shared that into my story. And like I say, 24 hours later, it's disappeared. And that's the beauty of it. And from a business perspective, it's a nice outreach when people get that notification that you've been mentioned in the story. And it's another way of, it's another trigger for one-to-one communication. If you respond to someone's story, that response is received in LinkedIn Messenger. So again, it's just another way of creating that reach out that has the potential, if you handle it correctly, to end up in a sales conversation, or a sales environment. So I'm really excited about it. Also, I'm one of those people that very rarely update stories from a personal perspective, because everything I've got to talk about is business related, and therefore a little bit boring maybe for some people. So for me, it was like LinkedIn stories. I was like, yeah, I know exactly what to do. The other thing with it as well is that I feel like, I don't know if you've paid attention to who you're seeing, whose stories you're seeing, what order you're seeing them in. I think there's more of an algorithm behind what we're seeing on LinkedIn stories than there is on Instagram and Facebook, for example. So it's going to be quite interesting over the next few weeks, when everyone has sort of dug in and paid attention to this stuff, to see what thoughts come out at that point. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a feature we should be using. You can use it for video as well. You just got maximum 20 seconds on your video. So like I said, I think it's really a really usable feature. Yeah,
I would agree. And I think some people might fall by the wayside as well. So if you keep going with it and you're an early adopter, it'll help you stand out. In the same way that, you know, if you look on Facebook and Instagram, yes, consumer brands are there quite a lot for stories, but less so on Facebook. You know, when I'm looking on Facebook, and I follow a lot of brands and a lot of companies on there, it prioritizes, you know, people, my connections, my friends in there. But the story contents from companies is quite few and far between. So if you stick with it, then, you know, fingers crossed, you would stand out and people will start to recognize you. And even if they're not watching really diligently, they will know who you are and what you do.
I can't remember the exact stat, but it's something like brand pages or brand profiles rather are sharing less than 5 stories a month, which is just crazy, absolutely crazy when you think about it.
It's the first, I mean, I don't know if everyone else here is the same or anyone watching is the same, but it's the first content I consume because it's so easy. It's so easy to click
front
through.
and center.
Absolutely. Yeah, so whether it's Instagram or Facebook, and then now probably LinkedIn, it's the first thing I will look through. And then if you're short on time, you kind of ignore the feed underneath. So is that just me, or do others do that? So Emily Jane, do you do that as well?
Usually, yeah.
I think it depends really what mood I'm in. If I click on it and I know I don't have much time, then I will just look through the stories and maybe react to a few or reply to a couple. But if I want to do more of that engagement, then I have more time, I tend to skip the stories, do the engagement first, and then go to the stories after that.
Yeah, this is more from a personal perspective. I mean,
yes, yeah. I mean, for me, I guess with my accounts, that's what I would usually do. But it depends. Like I said, I think the stories are very useful, and I do like the fact that they're so easy that you can just click on them. They're only there for a set amount of a time. Obviously, most of them don't have an algorithm or anything, so I do like them in that sense. But it really depends on how much time I have. If I've got 5 minutes.
I think, Mark, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I wonder if they're going to plan to have it on desktop as well, because I don't know. Slightly different, yeah. On Instagram, I tend to sort of go on stories. Facebook, bizarrely, unless I'm on desktop, I don't really look at them. So
To be fair, I'm actually the same as that, thinking about it. I'll look at stories on my phone all the time, but if I click on Facebook, I'll occasionally look at the stories along the top, but I would more likely do that if I was on my phone for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because it's where my thumb is. I'm not sure.
Fantastic. So Emily, what have you been looking at this week?
I have been quite busy this week. However, I did have a quick look at social media today, this morning, and I noticed that there was a piece on there published yesterday, I think, about Pinterest and the growth of Pinterest in general. So they've added, I think there's now over 26 million extra users in this quarter or something, and the revenue has increased as well this month. So I read a little bit of the article. I found it quite interesting because it was talking about how the growth of Pinterest has mimicked the lockdowns in the UK or everywhere. So basically, as the lockdowns were enforced and they increased, the users on Pinterest increased. And as they have decreased again and things are easing off, they're going down. And they're doing this wave, really, exactly the same following the wave of lockdown. So I found that quite interesting, really. I think the article was basically saying that it was because of, obviously, the rise in e-commerce and people doing a lot of online shopping, and also the fact that people are spending a lot of time at home. So they're looking at renovation projects and inspiration and things that they can do there. But yeah, I thought it was interesting anyway. I know I personally use Pinterest quite a lot. I wouldn't say that that's mimicked necessarily the wave of lockdowns, but possibly it has. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know do you guys use Pinterest or?
I really don't, very, very rarely. Okay. But it's kind of what your interests are outside of work. So I know you do a lot of home renovations and DIY. It doesn't interest me at all. I'm instantly bored when someone's talking about paint colours and wallpaper.
The thing is, Pinterest is a search engine. So as much as it's yes, it's a social media platform first, but the way people use it is a search engine. So if I go back a few years, someone I knew, someone was getting married and I was doing the flowers for the wedding. Okay, I know. Can you I'm actually quite good with floristry stuff, but yeah, it's something nobody knows. So I, getting ideas for what to do with the flowers, what flowers, colour schemes, that kind of thing, table centres. I probably spent more time on Pinterest in that kind of 6 to 8 week period when we were deciding exactly what we were going to do than I have done at any other point in my life. It is it is a search engine first, and you've got to think about who's buying from you and whether they're going to use Pinterest to get those ideas together. So anything that's home related or I'd say linked to a life event. So, people will put things together like, the perfect Christmas, okay, and recipes and that kind of thing. But, getting married, or it might be christenings, or nurseries, bedroom decor, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that people flock to Pinterest for, and they're looking at imagery that is very much selling a lifestyle. So when you're putting your products onto that platform, again, it's about selling that kind of selling the dream, really.
It's the kind of the ideal, isn't it? So now it might be things like Halloween crafts, things you can do at Halloween, make your own decorations and stuff. Because obviously, for a lot of people, there's no trick or treating or anything like that this year. So yeah, I have used it, and I do have it on my phone, but it tends to be for things like Christmas ideas, craft things you can do with kids. Yeah.
See, for me, I use it more from, I guess, the way Christina was explaining, like an inspiration aspect. So I would look at it for obviously home decor and stuff like that. But then in terms of Christmas, it would be Christmas decorations or Christmas wrapping paper, because I love wrapping my presents all snazzy. So yeah, it's just things like that, really. I mean, I love it. And it's something, to be fair, Christina's right. It's something that I only really got into when we bought the cottage and started renovating the cottage. Before that, I would have it for, I don't know, maybe a few things like girly stuff that Mark won't care about, but like Halloween nails or for like outfits of the day.
But for the consumer brands, so the brands that we work with that are product based and they're consumer facing, so because obviously, you know, as GU we have a real spectrum of, you know, people we work with. Some is service based, some is business to business, lots of recruiters. You know, but people making sort of handmade jewelry and things like that, this is the perfect platform for them. And as you say, kind of a massive search engine. So if it drives people back to their website and helps make them some sales, then definitely.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you said, it will only work well for certain businesses. But if you are in that sector where it is going to work well for you, I definitely would recommend it because, well, like the article said that the users are already increasing on that anyway. So, yeah, if it drives sales, then it's worth it, really, in my opinion.
Cool.
We have missed the trick, really, this week. I did suggest to Enrique, I was like, it's all kind of pre-Halloween, you know, should we do anything? So,
we should have worn witches' hats or, I don't know, something. Halloween nails.
Pumpkin things you put on your hairs, what do you call them, like poppers or something?
Oh, do you have those? Oh. Well, that's
Okay, right. I'm like, hold on a minute, guys. Let's move on. I don't do the whole dressing up thing at the best of times. And if we're going down the route of like Halloween pumpkin boppers, then I'm definitely moving it along.
I'm out.
So Jane, how about you? You're very quiet today.
Oh, I can't get a word in with you lot. Sorry. Actually, going back to the selling stuff again, the thing I was going to talk about is actually only in America at the minute, but it's a TikTok thing. So they've just done a partnership with Shopify, and the idea being that this they're integrating together so that merchants can create these in-stream video adverts that you can shop from. You can target them obviously quite well to the younger age group by gender, by age, behaviors, the categories of videos they look at, and the videos themselves are shoppable, so people can obviously buy stuff from the video, but they're also releasing a pixel, so then that's retargeting, tracking, all of those things coming along, and then after that the idea is to do some in-app features so that people can look for merchants, they can browse their products, and they can shop directly from TikTok. So it's only in the US at the minute, but the idea is to roll it out in Europe next year. So I know we have our opinions on TikTok, but you know, it's going to be the next big thing, I'm sure.
I was talking to someone on Monday or Tuesday, and you know, and I said again to them about WhatsApp, and said, you know, the reality is, don't think about TikTok as a social media platform right now. Think about it as a functionality. Think about it as a content creation tool. This type of content is going nowhere. Okay, whatever happens next with TikTok, whether it disappears into, social media platforms come and go and come and go. There are a few, you know, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. There are a few that have stuck with us. And the reality is the ones that have come and gone, there's always a bit of that functionality that's ended up in something else. So, you know, Snapchat's still around, but it's not, people are not using it massively. It's, you know, you don't think of it as being, you know, in that top layer of social media platforms you should be, you know, considering from a business perspective. But if you think about some of those functionalities in Snapchat, well, that's where stories originated. And now we've got stories on LinkedIn. And it's the same thing with TikTok. Whether you're thinking, oh, you know, it's just, you know, should I just be doing stupid dances to promote my business? Stop thinking about it that way. It's content it's highly editable in terms of the video content, the little labels you can use, pinned labels, the challenges you can do through TikTok. You could create some sort of business challenge. It doesn't have to be a dance. It just has to be something you're encouraging other people to do and follow. You know, it's like there is power in that type of content. It's going to be everywhere. It really, really is. And, you know, I look at some of the stuff that is being rolled out in stories, that is being, you know, that we're now seeing in reels on Instagram as well. And I can already see it happening. So I think that the fact that they're making these changes, you know, the Shopify link, the fact they're bringing out their version of the Pixel as well, is all brilliant steps forward. And again, it's just, for me, it's sort of a further endorsement that that type of content isn't going anywhere. I'll stop ranting now.
Well, it needs reinforcing, doesn't it? It's the sort of content that people do need to be creating if they want to move their marketing strategy forward. It's not enough these days just to put one post out on Facebook or and expect that to do the legwork for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's interesting, sort of Jane, sort of kind of tying in, talking about advertising, there's a couple of articles that have come out over the last week. So one to do with Facebook ads and frequency. I don't know, have you seen that at all?
I saw there were some stats on it, but I haven't actually delved into it yet, I'm afraid.
So Facebook have released a report that says that basically the more your ads are seen, the better that they perform. And when you're running Facebook ads, you get this score called a frequency score. And I would say for most ads that we're running, that frequency score kind of comes in probably about a 2.7, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 across the board. Now I've seen, and it's not just over the last week or two, but for years I've seen stats that have said, your frequency should be much higher. It should be like at 8s and 10s and 12s and that kind of stuff. And I think it's okay to follow that information when you're spending 20 grand a month on ads. But most of the people we're working with, their budgets are probably more kind of like that 300 to 500, certainly under £1,000 a month. Okay. So we see all this information. It's like, the frequency of your ads is really, really important so that people remember the brand and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure that's correct. But when I look at, like I said, the ads that we're running, the spend around those, how that targeting works, I don't think it does need to be as high as that to be able to get results. And when you're seeing stats like that, quite often there is that driver behind it that is, spend more money, your ads will be seen more, you'll get more results, so spend more money. And I think people can get kind of quite caught up in that. I've always said there's like a bell curve. It's like the more money you spend on your ads, the more people will see it, the more results you'll get. But if you've done your targeting right, you'll always reach a peak. And even if you spend more money, actually the results you get will just remain the same. And it's kind of like, actually at that point, if you're not careful, what will happen is that even if you are increasing your spend, your results will drop off again. What you have to do is that point where your results level out, you need to change the creative. So people are not seeing the exact same ad again to be able to maintain that level of results. It isn't always a case of more money on your social ads brings more results. And I think that a lot of people fall into that trap of let's just spend more, let's just spend more. And a lot of people get ripped off being given that information as well.
Or I think they would, sort of do the other extreme. So you're sort of polarizing, spend more, or they just don't give it enough time to work. So they kind of go, oh, we haven't got any leads from it. It didn't work. Or we need to change the creative. And it's like, you need it to have it running for more than a couple of days or even more than a week. It needs to gain momentum, traction. You need to get a chance to see which ads work, which visuals work. So Facebook can be quite misleading because once one of the pictures, I'm kind of pinching Jane's thunder here because you are the Facebook ad queen, really. But what I've learned from Jane is that, once one ad starts to perform better, then of course Facebook shows it more. So it's always going to pull further and further ahead. So whilst it is doing the performance for you, I'm kind of taking it slightly with a pinch of salt. So it's not that your other images are rubbish and you should never use them. It's just that, you know, one is more appealing, so hence it gets shown more. That's just how it works.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, you can do split tests and that kind of thing so that two images will be shown evenly, if you like, equally, to be able to sort of see the results that way and get that clear comparison. But again, like I said, you know, we were working with a client on Facebook ads and they were essentially wanting us to make a change every day, but their budget was limited. And if you think for Facebook to give you the right information so that you know what to change, that advert has to be seen by so many people first. And if your budget isn't big enough to allow Facebook to show it to that many people in 24 hours, there's no point making changes on day 2, day 3, day 4, because then you don't know which change has made the difference. You don't know what changes you've made that have actually had an adverse effect. And, you know, people just get, I think it's not people, it's me too. We run an ad and I go, oh, is that all it's done? And I want to start tinkering and changing things and I know better. So I sit on my hands. But, you know, even I have that drive to go in and, you know, one of the reasons that Jane now gets, I'm going to use the word lumbered with all the Facebook ad stuff is because I can't leave it alone. I keep going in there and what if we just make that tweak on that location? What if we make that tweak? And so Jane and I'll have conversations about what changes need to be made. And then I'm going back to and go like probably like 2 days later going, have you done it yet? Has it made a difference? Have you noticed anything? And she's like, Christina, you know, it was only back this morning we had that conversation. I'm like, oh, okay then.
So what you're saying is that you're quite impatient, Christina.
Is that a shock?
No.
So
typical entrepreneurial traits.
Yeah, maybe. So like I said, the Facebook ads frequency, it's interesting with what we see with the clients we work with. Their budgets tend to be like £1,000 and £300 to £1,000 a month. What I'm seeing in the research from Facebook on frequency, I don't 100% agree with. But the other thing that was interesting relates to LinkedIn ads. So we are seeing more and more people getting interested in running ads on LinkedIn, and they continue to be quite expensive. But LinkedIn released a report early this week, I want to say. And they're seeing, I think in the last quarter, they've seen a 16% increase on spend on LinkedIn ads, which is, you know, feels like quite a jump. But then when you read into it further, LinkedIn, so the spend on LinkedIn ads is up like 40% on what it was this time last year.
That's a big jump.
It's absolutely crazy, the increase. You're also seeing that the stats that are, I think there's like a 34% increase on sort of engaged users or like, you know, daily active users on LinkedIn as well. So again, if you're thinking, right, or if you've traditionally thought LinkedIn isn't a place for me to hang out, it's not my client base, that kind of thing, then you know, it might be worth just taking another look. A lot of people are on there right now.
So Paul's just made an interesting statement saying he's never found LinkedIn ads effective. So, you know, I guess that could be a number of factors, couldn't it? Like maybe previously people weren't receptive to them and they're not hanging out on there as much. And again, this might be kind of pandemic and lockdown related, but we did see that more people were going on to LinkedIn, whether it's just because they wanted company, you know, they wanted to reach out to people. And I'm still working, but I'm working at home. I don't actually get to do networking. So, you know, we know usage of all the channels increased over lockdown. It sort of plateaued a little bit now. But yeah, I mean, what would you say to anyone that's kind of going, LinkedIn ads just aren't effective?
So over the last 2 years, so probably, I want to say it's like maybe 3 years ago that LinkedIn started overhauling its ad feature. So its ad platform. So it's now called, now called Campaign Manager. And it's very, very similar to a Facebook Ads Manager experience. They've brought in all sorts of different audiences, that kind of thing as well. We can do lookalike audiences on there that we never could do. So my question would be, and maybe Paul can pop it in the chat, when was it that he tried LinkedIn ads? That would be something I'd be interested in, to see, okay, where was it at that point? Because we've tested them over time. We've always found them ineffective. My feeling is right now that they are finally coming into their own. Okay, they're now finally becoming that thing that are, previously I'd have said, do all your paid ads through Facebook, and then bring in LinkedIn ads right when you're at the neck of your funnel. So you're targeting people, and you can be really, really specific at that point, because it's expensive anyway. Spend that budget where you're going to be spending more money on your cost per click kind of thing, cost per action. So, but what I'm seeing now, what I've seen over the last sort of 3 to 6 months, what I've been reading, some of the ads we've run for clients and the stats that we're getting, I'm now starting to think actually LinkedIn is coming into it's not into its own. It's almost like it's matured, and now we can use it through, further up the funnel, and it's more of a middle of funnel tool now. But we need to do some testing ourselves on that, I think, as well. And then we'll be able to come out with something that's like, okay, here's a strategy that works from start to finish.
Oh, who's chiming?
Who's that?
It's celebrating me. I've turned the sound back on my watch, and I can't figure out how to turn it off again.
Oh no.
Really not very techy.
Well, interesting. Paul has said it was about 3 years ago that he used the LinkedIn platform to do ads, and made use of the freebie vouchers. So that's quite a good piece of advice, actually. Is sometimes if you want to do advertising, just kind of go in and have a little look, and don't do too much, and then kind of pull back for a day or two, because then that might prompt LinkedIn to send you the little code that says, here's £75 ad spend or something like that. Doesn't always work, but occasionally they'll send something through.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Paul's asked another question about boosting Facebook posts. I'm like reaching for coloured pens to prove a point now. So I'm really anti boosted posts. Okay, so when Facebook gives you that little button that says boost this post, what it's doing is giving you something shiny. And we all know I love shiny things, but what it's doing is giving you something shiny that is kind of like low hanging fruit. You can spend a small amount of money, let's say 20 quid, and wow, that post selling this red pen, so many tens of thousands of people are going to see this pen. Brilliant. They've seen the post. If you go through Ads Manager, you can run an engagement ad, and the objective, if you like, is not have people seen the post of the red pen. It's actually have people engaged with the post of the red pen. Now, off the back of that, you can create audiences that essentially are, we want to target anyone that's engaged with our content over the last 30 days, let's say. So automatically that's become more valuable for you. Okay. The other thing we could do is, because we've run it through Ads Manager, we can have a post going out with the red pen, post going out with the green pen, post going out with the blue pen, and it's still costing us the same money. Now, I'd rather have 3 versions and then in time be able to target, the people that engage with the green pen. Actually, maybe they're going to get served with the next level of ad that is like, here's where you can buy your green pens. So boosting posts, yes, you're going to get more reach on that one post. But it's, so what if your post has been seen by 20,000 people? That's not 20,000 people that are necessarily going to buy from you. So
does boosting allow you to target, does it allow you to do any targeting? So for people that aren't familiar.
Yeah, so you can target, but the targeting is limited in comparison with what you can do through your Ads Manager. Okay, so you know that's the difference really, and it's about building loyalty. It's about making sure you are appearing a few different times. If I'm going to spend, let's say I'm going to spend £50 on an ad this weekend, I can just show it to as many people as possible, or I can show it to less people, but actually have people clicking through to my website and retarget them through there, or downloading something and now I've got their email details, and it still cost me £50. So anytime you run an ad, I always go through Ads Manager. Never click those the promote buttons that you see on your Facebook page, because generally it's giving you like a really small, a really tiny bit of what's possible, and it's costing you the same money.
There you
I'm
go.
very ranty today, aren't I?
No, informative is the word we're looking for. We're all being, I feel like I'm being overly chatty, but I haven't really seen anybody this week. So it's probably why I'm hankering after human connection.
I've tried really hard to actually take a break. And then Mark sent an email to a client basically saying, yeah, Christina's on holiday, but I can't get her off the phone.
Spoke to you more yesterday, and I've done all like for the last couple of weeks, I think.
Well, it is half term for a lot of people, so I think if people are finding it difficult to get engagement on their posts or opening emails, that's possibly why, isn't it? So there's lots of people like you who are trying to do the good thing and hang out at home, but it's tricky when there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. The weather's been a bit crappy in the Midlands, so there's not really, like just going for a walk is a bit depressing. So yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle, and taking a break anyway is always hard for me and makes me a little bit grumpy. But that's something I need to work on. But how's it been? Like, how's it been without me? What's been going on with clients? Have we got any projects we can talk about, or anything exciting that's been happening?
It's whizzed this week. I've had a great, end of last week, beginning of this week, I've worked on a rebrand and launch for an amazing brand. I've absolutely loved working on it. So they're called Octopay, and they are payroll software. So for recruiters that have loads of temps, or big franchise networks, basically anyone that has to pay a lot of people. So in essence, it's not the sexiest product in the world, but we've had loads of fun working with all the themes that run through about how it's kind of oceans apart from the competition, and don't drown under a wave of paperwork. So yeah, I've been in my element with it, to the point where I was waking up at kind of 5-6 o'clock in the morning with that's a good idea, I'll go and put that, or I'll weave that into the copy somewhere. So yeah, that's been great. So I would say give them a follow if you want to see kind of an idea of some of the cool branding that you can do and fun you can have with something as dry maybe as software. I
thought you were going to say something as dry as an octopus then. I was like, that one doesn't work, Amanda.
I know so much now about octopuses, and that's the right plural. It's not octopi.
Oh, there you go. I was going to say, what's number one fact you've learned about octopuses? And there's one right there.
Number one fact. So they are the world's most intelligent invertebrate. Oh. So each one of their 8 arms or legs, as they are, there is debate about what they're called, but each one has a mind of its own. So they can kind of, do one thing there, and crack on with it. So
wasn't there one that predicted the World Cup as well?
Yeah, apparently.
That predicts the World Cup outcome.
Yes, there was one a few years ago. You're right.
So weird.
Yeah, I've had great fun. The guys have been really open to ideas as well, which has really helped. So it's good when you work with a client that's kind of bought into everything.
Oh.
Mark, you got any comments just from a design perspective, really? So they've got Ollie the octopus, which is this little character, and I know you've done some really cool stuff that Amanda got way too overexcited about, to be honest.
It looked great though. And honestly, the work Mark did, because some of the suggestions the client was coming up with, I was like, how are we going to do that? That's not going to work. And Mark was just like, ta-da! So, and look,
I like the sound effects.
about anything.
That's what Slack makes the noise now when I send things to Amanda. No, I mean,
what do you think about?
It's a funky brand to work with. So obviously the basics were there anyway. So we just got to tweak a few bits and add some extra elements in. So yeah, I didn't think at the start of the week I'd be putting sort of scuba masks on people working on software and things like that. But it was good fun, and it's a nice, like Amanda said, it's fun, and it feels nice and fresh, and it puts a different spin on something that could be a very dry subject. And you land on that, and you see different things. You can think, oh, this is a bit more interesting, a bit more funky, and it gives people a point of interest, point of difference.
That's much more memorable.
I think as well, using something like, obviously we've got, George the giraffe that makes his way into various bits of branding when it's appropriate. And, that they're going to have Ollie the octopus. We've worked with other brands in the past that have got like little characters and things like that we've been able to do stuff with. So as a vehicle, I think it's quite cool from a design perspective to do things that are a little bit different.
Yeah, no, it's nice. And like I said, the actual basis of the logo is a really nice logo anyway. It's, without getting too geeky, they've got nice fonts and things like that to work with. So, they've done things right. They've got the basics in there, and then we've just helped sort of embellish some of the graphics and things. So yeah, it was quite a nice one to work with, really.
Cool. Okie dokie, guys. Is there anything else news-wise that's kind of stuck out this week that perhaps we haven't brought up because we're still looking at, or things for people to just sort of have halfway on their radar? What have I not seen or read about yet is what I'm really asking.
You might have clocked or not, or others might not have done, that you can now start video calls from LinkedIn Messenger as well. So we've been quite LinkedIn focused today, but as you said, it really feels like they're sort of maturing a bit and adding more features. But it now integrates with Zoom, Teams, and another one I think is called Blue Jeans, which, I was going to say, I don't have massive experience with. We're Zoom people here, but you can essentially go into LinkedIn Messenger and kind of hop on a video call from there. So again, that's a nice. So if you're like right in the moment, kind of, oh, what's this about? Wanting to ask something, you can almost say, well, should we just hop on a call right now and start it from there? So it's just another way to, as you say, keep moving people down that sales funnel.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that up. We're kind of like 43 minutes in, and we always want to try and keep this sort of 45 minutes to an hour max. So that's cool. We are here again next week, Thursday at 12, live on Facebook, YouTube, and on my LinkedIn account as well. So come and find us next week. Who have we got next week as a guest? We should have someone joining us, or is it still to be confirmed?
No, we do. We have the fabulous Joanne Lockwood joining us next week. So
brilliant.
That's going to be a great chat. What she doesn't know and what she doesn't promote about diversity, inclusivity. She's a great presenter as well. So I think she'll be a good person to have on.
Excellent. She can, I always love my conversations with her because she makes me feel less awkward about getting things wrong, which is just fantastic when you're dealing with those situations. So, and those topics. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm really pleased we've got Jo on. Is it See Change Happen? Is that her brand, isn't it? Yeah. So if anyone wants to check her out beforehand, go and have a look. And we'll welcome Jo next week. In the meantime, have a fantastic week, everyone. And we'll catch you later. Bye for now.
Bye.